Live from Lincoln, this is Channel 8 Eyewitness News at 6.
Detrimental to the health and safety of young people.
An important safety tip as students prepare for sports seasons. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Youth sports are growing more and more competitive.
That's right, and a product of that is students choosing only one sport to play year-round, which could be dangerous. Channel 8 Eyewitness News reporter Bailey Bischoff has more in tonight's top story. Bailey?
Rod and Megan, we're talking about sports specialization, where a student picks just one sport to play year-round, something that's growing more common each year. There's football and volleyball in the fall, soccer each spring, basketball in the winter, all year long. So many opportunities for kids to get involved in sports. But more and more often, they're just picking one, which can have dangerous consequences.
There are those who certainly believe that sports specialization has the tendency to be detrimental to the health and safety of young people who do specialize.
Sports specialization is when a child plays one sport competitively year-round. With this comes an increased risk of sports-related injuries. Students
who do specialize have a 70% higher chance of having injuries in that sport than those students who participate in more than one activity.
Dr. Teneper says this happens because of the repetitive motions practicing the same sport requires.
Volleyball players who have the overhead serve and the spiking, sometimes there become shoulder injuries there. We've got young people who participate in soccer as an example, and there's the risk there of some stress fractures if they do it on a regular basis.
He says this isn't a new problem, but it is growing.
Parents many times who believe that if a student zeroes in on just one activity, one sport, that they have the tendency or the capability of being better and potentially even perhaps get a college scholarship.
He says this chance of increased scholarship opportunities isn't worth the risk of injury.
Certainly at the high school level, rather than being a 12-month sport, students are encouraged to participate in 2 or more sports.
He says if you have a student who only wants to play one sport, try and decrease those repetitive motions as much as possible.
All right, Bailey, thank you so much. Let's get to your first weather now with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki. You know, it kind of felt like summer today, Dean, but without the high dew points, right?
Yeah, that's right. Low dew points, that means low relative humidity. It was a dry heat out there today, as has been most of this spring. When we get these warmer days, it's at least it's tolerable. And with just a few high clouds spilling in from the west, but we're still looking at mostly sunny skies here in the capital city and across much of eastern Nebraska. And it's going to remain dry tonight. Temperatures still hanging in the low to mid 80s. We're at our high for the day right now of 84 wonderful degrees. Mid 80s from Thedford down to McCook. Hebron, you're checking in at 84 as well. Common number. 5 to 15 mile an hour winds. That's tolerable. A little breezier further west. We'll see those slightly stronger winds in our area as we head into tomorrow, as a storm system will drag a cool front towards our area tomorrow night. But the early summer weather, again, is going to continue as we head throughout the rest of the week. This is more typical of mid-June. And it looks like we will have a stormy pattern setting up late in the week as a frontal boundary kind of stalls over the area. Let's hope we get some beneficial rain out of that. To wash all the pollen and all that stuff out of the air. That would sure help. And then, again, we just need the moisture. But it looks like a pretty decent shot at it. Some areas of the state could get heavy rain by Friday and Saturday. We'll have more on that coming up a little later.
All right. Thank you, Dean.
You bet.
Well, 2 separate accidents along Interstate 80 yesterday left 5 people dead.
That's right. We have more information on names and the causes. Rachel Miner has the story.
Sunday proved to be deadly along Interstate 80 with 2 fatal accidents. The first accident happened near mile marker 381 in Seward County just before 7:30 Sunday morning. The Seward County Sheriff's Office says a vehicle traveling westbound on I-80 hit the rumble strips and overcorrected.
And they crossed the median. They struck a single vehicle that was driven by a Seward County resident.
Both drivers were life-flighted to Bryan West with life-threatening injuries. The sheriff says 3 of the passengers in the first car were not wearing seatbelts and were ejected.
Out of the 5 people in that westbound vehicle, 4 died. The driver of that vehicle was still alive at the time they transported that person to the hospital.
Monday afternoon, Seward County Sheriff Joe Yukam released the identities of those involved in the accident. 49-year-old Susan Seltzer, 20-year-old Cody Richardson, 20-year-old Troy Wanzik, and 19-year-old Cole Austin were all from Clinton, Iowa. The driver, 20-year-old Madison Seltzer Smith, and the driver of the other vehicle are still in the hospital with life-threatening injuries. The second accident on Sunday happened near mile marker 378 in Seward around 10 a.m. A semi failed to slow down, hitting another truck, causing a chain reaction, resulting in this fiery crash. The Nebraska State Patrol says 33-year-old Abadizia Jama from Columbus, Ohio, was driving the truck that caused the accident. He was pronounced dead at the scene, and his passenger was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Investigators say Jama may have been texting at the time of the accident. Reporting in Lincoln, Rachel Miner, Channel 8 Eyewitness News.
One neighborhood was hit with a string of break-ins over the weekend. It happened in the area near 14th and Fletcher Avenue. Between Saturday night and Sunday morning, someone broke into 13 vehicles and stole some stuff from some of them. It totaled more than $2,500 in damages and around $2,800 in things lost.
It was the passenger window, and just the glove box was torn into, and the console, and then a bag and all my makeup and stuff.
One of the victims says they found blood near the car door handle, which police swabbed. They haven't made any arrests, though, yet. We'll have more on this story coming up tonight at 10 o'clock. With the primary vote just right around the corner.
Yeah, we want to introduce you to all of the candidates. And tonight we give you a quick look at all of the Republican candidates for the U.S. Senate seat. Channel 8 Eyewitness News reporter Pierce Corlett has that.
Deb Fischer is the incumbent to the U.S. Senate seat and is met with a handful of competition from the Republican side for the upcoming primary election. Jack Heidel is a retired UNO math professor and is also a veteran of the U.S. Navy. He's mainly running on the platform of fixing the U.S. debt problem, and he says, "I feel strongly compelled to do it since our debt problem is so serious and is largely being ignored by most of our national leaders." Dennis Mayock is another candidate who may feel like a familiar name to some. This is his second time running for a U.S. Senate seat. Last election, he challenged Ben Sasse for his seat. Dennis is running on a 12-point plan that touches on everything from improving the environment to addressing our national debt. We don't have the luxury of time, folks. Our national debt is a security threat. At about $20.5 trillion, given rising interest rates and bigger deficits, it won't get smaller. Todd Watson is another candidate. His name might also be familiar because this is the second time running for the U.S. Senate as well. He was born and raised in Lincoln and co-owns a real estate and technology business in the capital city. He says he's ready to make Republicans conservative again.
Together, we can overcome the elites that want to control Congress. This government belongs to you. Let's go make it happen.
The final candidate is Jeffrey Stein. We reached out to him multiple times and were unable to get his comment about his campaign. All four of those Republicans are running against the incumbent Deb Fischer. Deb Fischer has held the U.S. Senate seat since 2012, and before that, Fischer was a state senator for 11 years representing the 43rd District. You can find all of the candidates' websites linked onto this story on our website, klkntv.com. Reporting in Lincoln, Pierce Corlett, Channel 8 Eyewitness News.
All right, thank you so much, Pierce. Coming up on the news tonight, the Lincoln Salt Dogs are back in town. Hear from the team later in sports.
But first, Dean is in next with your 10-day forecast. We'll be right back after the break.
Live from Lincoln, this is Channel 8 Eyewitness News at 6 with Rod Fowler, Megan Conway, Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, and Sports Director Brett Edwards. This is Channel 8 Eyewitness News at 6.